Hi everyone, Tiffany here at Breathe Create Dance, and today I'm up on the Sweet Stamp Shop blog showing you guys how I color with Tombow Dual Brush Markers. That's these guys right here. I like to use them to color cards and planner pages, and so I just wanted to give you guys a little peek into my process, which sounds really fancy, but it's totally not. I am not an artist. I'm not really a skilled colorist either. I just really love to color for fun and to add a pop to my planner pages and cards. So even if you're just starting out, you can do this. This is like tips for beginners, okay? So don't panic, don't freak out. You guys can do what I do. I promise you can. I do want to mention Copics really quickly. This is a Copic marker. These guys are amazing. They're alcohol markers. They blend and layer. You can build color. They do things that the Tombows can't do, but they also are artist grade markers. And so they just have pros and cons, both of them. I'm not saying Tombows are better than Copics by any means. These are just the colors, the markers that I use most often right now, and so that is what I'm going to show you guys today. I will do a little comparison with Copics too, just so you have an idea. But today, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to be using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to be using some Sweet Stamp Shop sets. I'm going to show them to you real quick so you can see the whole sets. I'm going to be using T-Rex Hugs. I'm going to color this little boy stamp right here, but here's the whole set. And I'm going to be using Sweet Stamp. You can see that I use these a lot. They're a little bit dirty. Sorry about that. I'm going to be using Coffee Town, specifically these two stamps. And I'm going to be using Basic Tabs. And these are all available at www.sweetstampshop.com. If any of them happen to be out of stock, never fear. We will be restocking and have a new release on December 8th. I went ahead and stamped ahead of time so that everything would have a chance to dry really well before we color. And it also helps for me to be able to practice some different ideas. So if you are just starting out coloring, this is what I suggest you do. Don't start right in your planner. Get some paper and make some stamped images and just play around. This is Nina Solar White cardstock. So we're going to start with this little guy. When I have like a character or something that's really three-dimensional, I usually try to use three colors. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So I'm going to use these three greens. They're just kind of similar. They happen to be 133, 126, and 158 if you're coloring along. When I'm choosing colors, I like the lightest color to be something that would be like a highlight, kind of like where the light would hit something. So I actually want my dinosaur to look closest to this color. And I usually have a little scratch paper where I just like scribble on so I can see what color they are and how they match. Alright, so when I'm coloring, if I'm not worried about bleed through, I usually start with the lightest color and I color in a circular motion. I'm not going to color his entire body, I'm just going to do his legs here to give you an example. If you color less, you actually can get an even lighter shade because it does build a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is take, here's my three, I'm going to take my darkest shade and I'm just going to think about where there would be a shadow. Now I am not an expert. I don't know much about light sources, but I know that if it's underneath his tail, it's probably going to be darker. And this is a little crease in his leg, so that's probably going to be darker. And this back leg is probably going to be darker. And maybe the bottom of his foot. The real trick is that it doesn't matter if it's perfect. When people look at your planner, even when they look at a card, they're not going to be examining whether or not your art theory is exactly correct. I promise they're not. When I bring in this middle shade, I'm going to color right at the border between the dark and the light. I'm going to go into the dark and then out into the light to kind of blend it together. And then the last thing I'm going to do is go over with my lightest shade again. And again, I'm going to do the border thing. I'm going to color into the medium shade and out into the light shade. And that helps blend everything together. And I've left the very tip of his knee lighter because that's where the light hits it in my mind. I'm going to go ahead and show this to you a little up close. It's not perfect, but that is how I do my shading. Now, the other option, the more ink you put down on the page, the more likely you're going to get bleeding and shadowing. So if you're concerned about that and you want to do some shading, you can start with, here's my three colors again, I'm starting with the darkest one. It's the same idea, but you're going to be laying down less ink by doing, instead of going over and over again, you're just going to do each color once, and that gives you a less blended look, but it's also going to bleed less. Still using the same idea of kind of going over the border between them. And then I'm going to go in with my lightest color. And kind of blend that out. Now, as you can see, that definitely does not blend nearly as well. And I don't really like it as much, but you could do just the medium and light instead of doing the dark, and you would have it would look more gradual, and you're going to have less bleeding that way. So if that's a concern. If this is intimidating and you're like, whoa, okay, shading is not my thing, the other thing you can do is think about some of the stickers that you buy. Some of them may be pretty realistic, and some may have like watercolor or lots of shading, but I guarantee you that a lot of them are just flat color. You've got a green circle, it's just a green circle. So you can totally use these markers to just color. Especially if you use a circular motion, you're not going to get a lot of streaking. And your little dinosaur can just be green. He doesn't have to have shadow and light. He can just be a little green dude in your planner or in a card. I'm telling you, your friends are going to be so impressed that you sent them a card. They are not going to be asking, whether you did the best job of coloring in the world, or judging that he didn't have shadows and shading, or that you went outside the lines like I just did. Okay, so there's three options. My favorite thing to color is things that have like this round shape, things that are like convex, that you want to show that roundness. So I'm going to color this little stamp guy. He's from the Sweet Stamp set. He's my favorite. We're going to use aqua-y, blue-greeny colors. We're going to use 451, 452, and 443. And for this, I'm going to do something a little different because I don't really want it to be blended. I want to be able to see the lines I'm making. So I'm going to, sorry if my camera's shaky, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Okay, easy camera. All right, so for this, I am going to start at the edges, and I'm going to move my marker into the middle with a flicking motion like this. So I'm not just going to draw a straight line. Because it's a brush marker, if I do that, the ends, you can see, are kind of like feathery. And I have people ask me all the time, like, how do I get this look? And it's super easy. This is the lightest blue. I'm just going to go over it like this. And when you look at this from afar, it really looks like it's round, like the light is hitting something round. It's very cool. This is the middle shade. And then I'm going to do, on the little handle, I'm going to take the darkest shade again. And because this is really narrow, I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot. So I'm just basically going to go around the edges. And then I'm going to go in with my lightest color again. For things like circles, I like to, this is going to be blendier, so we're going to put the lightest shade down first. We're going to do the darkest shade just on the edge, and the medium shade we're going to go around the top to make it look like a ball. And then I'm going to blend it again just one last time. Now, again, not a professional, there's probably a better way to do it, but that is how I make him look a little more three-dimensional. I'm going to do a cup with the same idea. My cup's going to be purple today. We're going to use, oh, I should probably zoom out. We're going to use 673, 676, and 685. And that's these three purple shades. I'm going to take the darkest one, which is 676, and I'm going to start on the edge, and I'm just going to kind of flick it towards the inside. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be super even. For this one, if I want, I can color over the very edges again with this darkest shade, and that just kind of builds the color and makes it even darker. I'm going to take the lightest color, which is 673, and I'm just going to go over the middle. I'm not going to blend it, I'm going to leave it just like that. And if I want to give it a cute little cup holder, these are the colors I used on the stamp again. It's as easy as that. If I back up, you start to see that it kind of looks like a three-dimensional cup. And if it's in your planner and you're just glancing at it, it looks pretty cool. You can do the same thing though as you did with this guy. If you aren't into shading and doing all kinds of crazy things, you can just use the medium color and give yourself a purple cup. It doesn't have to be fancy. And if you're a planner girl and you've got these planner stamps and you're decorating your planner, how many times can I say the word planner? And you want to think about doing cards, but you're not sure where to start. You know, these kinds of stamps are great for just adding a little sentiment and making a card. And I promise, again, your friends are going to think you're amazing. You do not have to have it be perfect. I'm going to show you two more quick techniques that I really like to do. If I have letters like this, this comes from that Coffee Town set, I am going to do an ombre effect with a red, orange, and a yellow. Again, if you're coloring along, this is 845, 925, and 025. I'm going to start with the darkest color at the bottom. And I'm just not doing anything special, I'm just coloring it in, stopping somewhere around a third of the way up. I do want to make sure that it's not a perfectly straight line at the top, but it's so narrow that you can't really get the feathered look like I did on the round images. Then I'm going to grab my orange, and just like we did with the blending, I'm going to start in the red and move up into the white uncolored area. And that just helps take some of the ink. Now, Copics will blend even after they're dry. These do not do that as well. So you really want to make sure that if you're coloring like a whole bunch of images, that you kind of have to do one at a time. It's not going to work as well if you let the ink dry completely. I'm going to take my yellow last, and again I'm going to go over the orange and just kind of pull the color up into the rest of the letter. And you can do this with, you know, a dark, medium, and light of the same color too. I just kind of like the idea of making it fiery. Last but not least, we're going to do these little guys. These I use in my planner all the time, but you can make them look three-dimensional by kind of going around the outside and making the middle lighter, but I like to do a diagonal ombre. It's something that I do a lot in my planner. So I'm going to just show you that technique really quickly. So I'm basically just going to make an angle. So whatever you want to do. I'm going to make the corner even a little darker. And then I'm going to do an angle of the medium shade. I don't want to go over and over on this side as it gets lighter. I want to try to just leave one layer of color so that I can get a gradient of tone. Okay, and then I'm going to take the lightest one and I'm going to start at the lightest area. And then if you go over this part again, you'll get it kind of blended. And actually, I really like doing the same idea with colored pencils too. But if you want to learn more about colored pencils, you should totally check out Meredith Ensel's channel because she is the queen of colored pencils. She does amazing things that I can't even begin to tell you. So the heart again, I'm just doing the darkest color, and then a medium color, and then the lightest color. You might be sensing a theme here, a pattern. You thought it was rocket science. You thought you had to be some kind of crazy artist to color your stamps, but it's not true. You just have to color and make it look however you want. If you hate this, if this is not how you want your stamps to look, don't color it that way. Practice, play, make a whole sheet of just one image and color until you find something that you like. It's just paper and ink and markers. You know, it's not like it's something that you can only do once. It's not something where if you write on it and smear it, it's wasted. If you're not using it in your planner, you can use your stamps over and over and over again. That's why they're so amazing. I do want to show you really quickly the difference between Copics and these markers. So we'll see how well this works, but all I have is browns. I don't have any like pretty colors. But this is perfectly smooth. I don't know if you can really see that. Let me zoom in just a little bit. You're not going to get, oh, I'm so sorry. You're not going to get any marker lines. And as you blend the two together, it's completely flawless. You can add another layer if you want, and you just don't get any sort of, there's no streaking. It just blends. And as it dries, it's just gorgeous. They're beautiful. And they do cool things too. If you have a colorless blender, the alcohol in it actually picks up the marker, so you can like make dots in your darker colors. The Tombows do not do this, in case you're wondering. Doesn't work. If you happen to color outside the lines a little bit, this colorless blender will actually erase it. So I know I'm supposed to be showing you all the reasons why you want to buy Tombow markers, but if you think you might want Copics, you know, they're a great investment too. They do different things. They're just two different markers. Speaking of making mistakes, right here I went out of the lines just a little bit. I'm going to teach you one more trick. This is upside down. This is a Uniball Signo pen. And if you go just a little bit out of the lines, once the ink is dry, you can actually go over it with a white gel pen and clean it up, and no one will ever know the difference. So there you go. There you have it. Some tips for beginners to show you that anybody can color a stamped image for a planner or for a card. Anybody. I do want to show you, since we're talking about Tombows, I want to show you these Tombow markers in a couple of different planners just so you can get an idea. You can see this bled a little even on this cardstock where I really was heavy with it, and the Copics totally bled a ton. They just bleed through. That's what they're meant to do. So you don't want to use Copics in a planner, but you can stamp on paper like I just did and then cut it out and put it in your planner, which is really fun. And that is what I would do if I had Copics. I'm going to start with, this is an Erin Condren Life Planner. I already did this, but just so you can see how much I colored. I'm not doing this really heavy. I'm just kind of coloring pretty simply, and then I'm going to go over it to blend, if I stay in the frame. So I don't think I would use these in an Erin Condren. I'd probably stick with colored pencils. But it's not bleeding through. It's just giving me some shadowing. So it just depends on if that bothers you or not. A similarly light paper is, this is a daily insert from the new Simple Stories Carpe Diem line, which I really love. And I do just fine with the majority of like stamping inks in it. But to color, I'm sorry, my phone is being noisy. So to color, you can see that that actually didn't bleed through as long as I didn't go over and over and over again. But if I was coloring an image and I really wanted to do a lot of shading and a lot of blending, when you add that many layers of ink, you're going to start to get bleed through, or at least shadowing. Except I kind of didn't. Well, there's a little. You're starting to get a little bit of shadowing right here. Yeah, you can see that on the film. So again, if you're going to color on these inserts that are like 70 pound, just do it like, do it this way. Just not with a lot of layers, and you should be fine. But you also can always just color on sticker paper and cut it out and put it right into your planner. I think that's a great way to use stamps. The next one I want to show you really quickly is a happy planner. You'd think I would have tested this before I turned the camera on, right? Okay, so now we're in an actual box where you can see. So my coloring is right here. There is nothing, no shadow, no bleed. So said, this planner would hold marker really well, actually. If you color and you layer and you put a ton of ink down, do not come crying to me if you manage to make it bleed through in your planner, because it's possible. That's still not showing any shadowing or bleed through at all, but I'm sure if you layered enough, eventually your paper would get wet enough that it would saturate and you would be able to see bleed through. So with normal use, even, I mean, it's on my finger, it's quite a bit of ink. It didn't bleed at all, so I think that's pretty fantastic. And the last one I want to show you, you can see I already tested these, but I'm going to do one more for you so you can just kind of see how much I'm coloring. And this is really nice to color on this paper, so smooth, it feels nice. And I'm not getting any shadowing at all with that amount of coloring. I'm going to see if I can add some dark and see if it will bleed. Even then, it's right here. I'm not getting any shadowing or any bleeding. So this is another planner that you would have really good luck coloring in your stamps with markers. If you've got something that's a lighter color, like I said, or a lighter paper, colored pencils are also a wonderful, wonderful option. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Like I said, the blog post is on the Sweet Stamp Shop blog. The link will be in the description. If you have any questions at all, please go over there and comment, and I will be watching, and I will do my very best to answer you. Thank you so, so much for coming. Have a great day. Happy stamping.